Good evening and welcome. Welcome return to the Pun-Dits Panel, the guys that put pun into pundits. I don't know where that came from. We've never done that, have we, on this programme? So I'm not quite sure that we've ever put a pun into the pundit. But anyway, here we go. Welcome back. It's nice to be on the screens with you again. After, of course, the cricket season. We're all in mourning with all cricket now gone. Except for internationals, of course, and some European stuff that K-Dog was watching tonight, Norway versus Germany or something. So welcome to a special edition. We have a very special guest that we'll introduce very shortly in Annie Chae from County Cricket Matters. So we'll be talking all things cricket, county championship, the dreaded 100, Bazball, and other things besides. So stick in, buckle yourselves in, and for the next hour or so, join us. And if you want to ask any questions, please do so via our comments page or via YouTube or Twitter, as we're on Twitter as well, and Facebook Live. So welcome to K-Dog. Little bit poorly at the moment.
A little bit croaky, but I've still got a voice, so I'm sure we'll be fine.
That's the bad news for tonight, of course. Yeah. And welcome, Wes. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm pretty good, thanks. Well, could have been a bit better had Hampshire won the championship, but not to be this year. Go on to next year instead.
I'm sure we'll come on to that very shortly. So I think without further ado, we should introduce our special guest of the evening. It's Annie Chae from County Cricket Matters. Hi, Annie. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah.
Are you in a little bit in mourning that county championships just finished?
Yeah, and my own team that we play had their last match at the weekend, so that's quite sad as well. So yeah, it's a difficult time of the year right now, isn't it? When you've got such a long period of time before there's any cricket.
Absolutely. I'm doing coaching at my cricket club at the moment, and seeing the ground's already been put to bed, and the light's been on, it's seeded. It's such a sad time. It really is. Obviously work that needs to be done, but sad nevertheless. No, thanks for joining us, Annie. And really, the first thing I want to sort of ask you is your background, really, of where your love of the game came from and how it all started. So a little bit of your roots, Annie, if you could, for us, that'd be great.
My mad father, really. So I was one of 4 children that he dragged along to cricket every weekend, and we absolutely loved it. I have to say, it was just embedded in my soul straight from sort of age 4, 5. I started scoring when I was 9, playing whenever I was allowed to play. If they were short, then I would be fielding on the side. All those things. Playing in the garden with my brother when he got 6 million against my 3, that sort of thing. So, and then we had the Devon County ground at the top of my road, and I was lucky enough when I was about 7 to see Viv Richards and Joel Garner play up there. And these 2 men just blew my mind, and I was a Somerset supporter from there. So that is kind of a very pocketed version of my cricketing childhood.
Did you play much, and did you play sort of boys cricket as well as girls cricket?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to play for my dad's team as much as I could. They did have women playing, and they had kids playing, but only when only when the kids were only allowed to play when they didn't have enough players. But I did play. I went to Colts with my brother. I sort of piggybacked on the back of him, and unfortunately they threw me out when they found out I was a girl when I was about 10. So that wouldn't happen now, and it's terribly shocking, but that was the case then. And then I didn't take it up again until I was in my early 20s Gunsbury Ladies in London, where I was okay, but I don't like not being good at something. So it was a bit late by then, and so now, I mean, I played, but I was a bowler,
Yeah.
but I wasn't great.
Medium pace or spin? What was your?
Yeah, I mean, really medium pace, Trundley, very straight. I did manage to get Charlotte Edwards out when I played against her. She was playing for Cambridge, but she was, she was 14, and she was a massive talent already, and she got caught on the boundary off my bowling. So it wasn't a great wicket.
It doesn't say that in the book.
As well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite interesting as you say that, because for my sins, I actually chair the seniors cricket and I'm talking over 50s cricket here in Oxfordshire, and we've just somebody's come up with a great idea of doing that in the women's game. It's the first step into that, and it will be off the back of the home counties women's Premier League sort of type of thing, but a sort of an over 40s type league we're going to try and start from a county perspective. So I think that's got some really, it's promising. I think it's a really good idea if we can do it. I don't know.
Dog looks keen on that, obviously.
It's for females, K-Dog. There we go. It's a really Simon Brown's come up with the idea, and I think it's a wonderful thing.
It's a great idea. I just wish cricket was a more natural sort of sport where it's very unnatural. The bowling and batting isn't a natural sport, so it's great if you can do it in your 40s though, and then you can move on to walking cricket, which is a thing I believe as well. So
It came about by, I think, what's happening, because they don't want to stand in way of the younger players coming through. So some of the late 30s, early 40s are suddenly batting at 9 and perhaps not bowling because of the youngsters coming in, and it makes sense, which makes sense, of course.
Oh yeah,
but,
absolutely.
Then it's sort of not giving the full game to the ladies there that are in the 40s. So I think it could work really, and they'll get more of a game possibly off the back of that. So
brilliant.
Exciting.
All these initiatives are so brilliant. There's so much more than we used to have. It's great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's good. So I've got a little bit of background there then. So scoring, that's something I find really difficult. I don't like doing that at all. Is that did you enjoy doing that?
I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah. It keeps you in the game. A little bit OCD about it, probably. Just generally, it's a fun thing to do. I've really enjoyed it. I like to be good at it. Just generally, it's a fun thing to do. I'm quite a regular scorer now, and we have a lot of fixtures, but I don't like it if someone else is scoring generally, because they don't do it as well as I do. So.
I like it. Not thought of any umpiring? Not umpiring? Not. No.
I'm not really keen on umpiring.
No. We certainly Kieran there is a reasonable umpire, I have to say. I'll give him a bit of credit. He's quite decent, to be fair. So I'm just
going with a passion. So.
Yeah, absolutely. One more question for me, and I'll obviously bring the guys in to grill you as well. No, to ask you a few questions at it. Somerset Cricket Club, obviously, your love for them. I mean, I had the privilege as a youngster playing at Taunton for Colts cricket, and it is a wonderful place to play cricket. It really is. Just give us your background there and your passion for Somerset cricket.
Well, obviously, Viv and Joel, and to a certain extent both of them. I was more into Viv really than anyone else. Was something that I watched as a kid. I mean, and how amazing! What fantastic people to watch play cricket, and how can you not be excited by Taunton then? I then kind of went away to, you grow up, you go away to university, come back, and then when my son was born, I'd take him up to Somerset and watch Trescothick play, and we both kind of just got really hooked onto watching Trescothick especially play. I mean, we saw some amazing people, of course. There's been some brilliant Australians come through, and there's been some fantastic other players, but Trescothick was the person that just made. My son's a left-hander as well, and completely modelled himself on Trescothick, and it was just kind of like, yeah, we just wanted to watch him. So that's kind of where it started, and then where it continued with my son. So yeah.
So I was coming just on that because Marcus played as a 16-year-old against Oxfordshire in the old NatWest competition. I actually had the privilege of playing at Aston Rowan Cricket Club against him, and he just looked at that age so good. I mean, I'm a left-hander as well, and I was just like, oh, I wish I could play shots like that. Yeah. He scored about, I think it was about 130, but it was effortless. It was an amazing innings, and in the minor counties as it was back then. A certain Martin Crowe played for Somerset Twos, believe it or not. I mean, and what a player he was. And it incredible. Just we played on a really difficult wicket, and he scored 40 in both innings. Really, really batted. The 40s were worth 100. That day batted beautifully. So that was the caliber that you had at Somerset, wasn't it? It was amazing.
Yeah. How have we not won the championship? I mean, it's just incredible. And I think that's another thing. I do like my underdogs. I'm a bit of an underdog thing, and Somerset are just the perpetual underdogs because they haven't won. So I don't know what I'd do if we won. Actually, I think I'd struggle.
You'd be quiet, wouldn't you? You wouldn't know what to say.
What's going on?
Yeah, it is like that, isn't it? And of course, one of our own, Jack Brooks, has got another year contract. Who's he's been on our sister show, The Masked Cricketer, and what a good he's a good guy, Brooks.
Yeah, I mean he's had a good back end of the season as well. Now he's not really got injuries and stuff. So it's been nice. He's had a couple of near hat tricks, and just looking pretty good generally. Except he wasn't very good when I saw him on Friday night on the dance floor, very sweaty, very sweaty.
Very sweaty
after the awards.
Very good.
Wasn't pretty.
I have seen Brooksy in that state. Yes, not good. No, he's a good guy, and I saw him today. He's thinking about his future and on LinkedIn, and I saw a few things that he's mentioned today. But no, it's good that he's got another contract, and I think it's like we've seen already with Darren Stevens, isn't it? They've got something to offer, haven't they?
I mean, Stevens is up for it. He's up for it. He's fantastic. There's if he wants to carry on playing, and there's nothing that suggests that he's not able to do it.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Let's keep him going. I mean, Somerset would have him, I'm sure. I don't know where he's heading, but let's hope. I mean, if a minor county got him, God. That would be amazing for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to be concerned, but I think it will be after my days at over 50s cricket. If he comes in for Kent over 50s against us, I think we might be struggling a little bit. So at some point, I might be gone into the 60s by then, Ali. So I'll be all right. I'll miss that. Kieran, you're very quiet. I'm sure you've got a question for Annie.
Well, I was just waiting for the time when, as soon as Annie started mentioning left-handers, I knew you'd start celebrating the fact that you were slightly
We're a
less than
dying
a
breed.
left-hander.
We are a dying breed. I can say it. We are.
Interesting.
It doesn't seem to be a dying breed in bowling, I have to say. We seem to
No,
be wheeling them out all the time.
he does seem to get wickets, and the other chap here, Wes, is also a left-hander as well. So Darryl saying they're dying breed. There's two of them on the screen. So
I don't think they are a dying breed.
no, well, you take a look at the way Darryl bats, you think they were, because he's a bit dead and a bit slow. So yeah, no, Annie. First of all, thank you for joining us, because I mean, I've been a member of your group pretty much since I first saw it, and the reason I joined it, I think, is probably because I'm very similar mindset to you in terms of county cricket really mattering. And as Darryl said, I've covered cricket across. Well, I've actually covered cricket at Lords for Middlesex for a couple of years when I worked for the Press Association. That's where I first got my real love for county cricket. I had a couple of years sat in that lovely press box and the NatWest Media Centre, and that's where I got my love. That was 25, 30 years ago. And obviously everybody knows your passion for county cricket, and we'll come on to some more controversial subjects later. But I guess really we want to start having a talk about the controversial, I'll say, high performance review, and whether or not you feel, as I do, that the high performance review is not going to go through clearly as it currently is. Do you think that's pretty much dead in the water? I'm sure you probably hope it is. I certainly do. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think that they have put in a worst case scenario for county cricket, and they've said this is what we want. And I think partly they weren't expecting it to get through, and think that okay, if you're not going to let us through this, we'll give you a few bits back, and then rein it back a little bit. And I think it still wouldn't be reined back enough to if initially it had come out like that, say, I don't know, 12 games or something, people would still have a problem with it. And I fear that they have done that a little bit, and they've said, I think they've basically said, this is what we want, but I think there are lots of things that are wrong with that high performance review. I mean, the 6 divisions at the top is the 6 teams at the top division is definitely one of the problems. The August kind of festival cricket is another thing that is being wheeled out a little bit. The 10 games, it wasn't that long ago we were having nearly 30 games. It feels like, there are so many things that county fans and county members are not going to be happy with, and counties are not going to be happy with this high performance review. And it does feel a bit like they've just said this is a worst case scenario, and if you're not, I don't think it's going to get through, but we'll do a few little adjustments, and you'll all say, oh, that's much better than it was. And that feels a bit like it.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same opinion, really. I saw Richard Thompson coming in as possibly a knight in shining armour, but I was a little bit concerned with one of his first interviews where he basically said, we'll need to compromise, but then in his next line said that the council is going to pretty much have to accept what we're offering. So I didn't really necessarily think that was a compromise. I think you're right. I think they've gone down the route of offering the worst, clearly knowing that's not going to happen, and then any compromise in inverted commas I think they're hoping that will look good to the members, and then that will be accepted. And I think to true county cricket lovers, I'm hoping that they dig their heels in and say, true Jeff Boycott style, dead bat it and say, well, actually, this is still not acceptable. Because ironically, years ago, Andrew Strauss, when he was desperately short of cricket
Yes.
and wanted to play some cricket, he came to Somerset and said, can I have a quick contract with you to get some cricket under my belt? And it's a little bit ironic. And I'm not one to moan about Andrew Strauss, as such, former Oxfordshire Colt, and he's been one of our master cricketers. But I just think it's ill thought through from what I've read, and also very confusing as well.
I think it's really, really difficult. Like, you brought up Richard Thompson. I think it's a really, really difficult position. And they wouldn't have probably hired him if they hadn't have said, okay, the 100, I'm sure that he had to compromise with a little bit with the 100. Of course, they wouldn't have. If he'd come in and said, well, I'm going to get rid of the 100 straight away, he wouldn't have been signed up, would he?
No.
Also, Andrew Strauss isn't out to do cricket in. He's not out to ruin county cricket, but I think he's lost sight of what's important. And I think there are issues, so many issues with what he's said and what he's put out there, and you're right. It's a difficult one to sort of, you don't want to do him down, because I mean he's been a fantastic captain, he's been a fantastic cricketer, but I mean you're also right that he recognised at the time that he needed more playing time at county cricket. So you do wonder where they're elite, why they suddenly decided, or what's been going on to say that there's too much cricket, but the too much cricket is county cricket, and that goes back to the start of the 100, where it was obviously the intention was to reduce the number of counties because there were too many counties, and this is where that begins, and so a bad performance in the Ashes, that was really down to some really poor selection, and suddenly we're county cricketers to blame for it, whereas the only thing that has changed, and suddenly we're a good England Test side. The only thing that's changed is the management and the captain, really, and so you can't have it always, but it feels like that's what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that the positive mindset is what's changed. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, Annie, but I looked at the squad that they were taking out to the Ashes last year, and although within the camp they're all saying we're going to go and win the Ashes, I'm known as being a little bit negative at times. I will confess that. But I looked at that squad and I looked at how we performed in the previous summer, and I didn't think we were going to win a Test match. I actually thought we'd lose 5-0. We obviously drew the last one, but I think that the high performance reviews was a knee-jerk reaction to that. Whereas actually, if they just took a step back and realised that there were other things that were possibly affecting performances, selection, coaching methods, potentially too many backroom staff. There's far too many backroom staff. I mean, they take sort of probably 3 times as many backroom staff as they do players. Whereas Brendan McCullum this summer, I'm really happy with the way that England are playing now. And if we lose the odd game here and there playing that positive brand of cricket, it goes to show that you don't need gimmicks and you don't need, these additional formats that are essentially getting in the way. And I don't know if you agree, I'm sure you do. We'll come on to the 100. I know Wes will have some comments on it, but no first-class cricket in August, to me, in the height of summer, school summer holidays, having no first-class cricket is an absolute travesty.
I mean, absolutely. In talking as a Somerset fan, we had 4 days of cricket in August, and that was 4 days of Royal London One Day Cup, where we struggled to get a team together. We certainly didn't struggle to get a crowd together because they were desperate to see cricket, because Somerset do such a massive area. They go right down Cornwall, Cornwall, Devon, Somerset, Wiltshire. There's a huge area. We had 4 days of cricket, and you're not just talking about the end of the season. You're talking about pretty much the premium time, along with July, for playing red ball cricket. When the conditions are good and the light is good, and you have the proper temperature, that sort of thing, and yet most of the cricket that was played in August was evening cricket under lights. And then you're talking about saying this is a high performance review. No, that's not what it is at all.
I mean, I have to say, I didn't watch any of the 100. I flatly refused to do so, but that's just me being stubborn.
No, I was as stubborn as you. I mean, I found it. I watched it last year a little bit. I watched the last few games, and I actually found it really too upsetting. So I just thought, no, I can't put myself through that. This is actually challenging what this is taking precedent over the cricket that I absolutely love. So.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, and the Ashes, of course, finishing by the end of July. Everything about that sort of screams in the face of cricket as well. Daryl, my views on the 100. I'll head back to you, and then perhaps Wes can come in with a more rounded view, seeing as he's
you
experienced.
Can tell us how wonderful it is, Wes, and where the stats are.
Looking forward to this.
I will say that I did listen to George DeBell on when was it, Monday night, talking about the massive losses from the 100. But yeah, we'll get that.
I'm looking forward to this, Wes.
Just coming back, I just sort of pick up on one or two things you mentioned there. I was sort of interested that county championship, as you rightly say, years ago there was so many games played.
Yeah.
Obviously 14 games pretty much this time round. The review says 10. Obviously, I think that's just ludicrous anyway, from a cricketing perspective.
Well, it is if you lose some to weather as well. You can't
absolutely.
You can't run a county just having 5 home games, and if there's fewer than that, then
no, absolutely. I mean, if you were in charge, ECB, you're in charge of the performance cricket review. I'm putting you on the spot here.
You are.
What would you do? Come on. Tell us what would your top thing be? Do you think?
I would have a regular county game through the season. I think one of the key things I found early on in April, even though it was April and not great, what the good thing about it is that the games all started on the same day. You knew when it was happening. That consistency seemed to work well with the players, and it worked well with the crowd. And I think it would be good to have that throughout the season. I think there's lots of talk about having the Royal London One Day Cup as a knockout, and I think that could work. I think I like a knockout thing. Everyone likes the FA Cup. I think there is good. But I think it needs to be done alongside something else, because otherwise, you're not going to have many games being played if you're knocked out really early on. As a county, you're not going to have many other games. Where I struggle is where I'd put the T20, because I think a lot of people love it on a Friday night and think it works really well, having it a Friday and a Sunday. And I think those are really good options, but I know there's problems with getting overseas players, for example, and people say the players like it as a block. I mean, I've heard mixed reports about that. So I'm reticent to. I'm not quite sure how I would do that. Therefore, the 100. I always said that, straight on. I said if you're actually doing it for a, to get kids involved in cricket, which is their which is what they pretend it is about, I would put it on straight at the beginning of the season, and I would say, right, this is an introduction to the season. Hello, here's cricket. Kids get really involved, and then go out there, play cricket in the summer, play cricket while you're still at school, and keep going. If you put it at the end of the season, they watch it 5-6 weeks, and then what happens then? They don't play again until, and then they get excited the next August, and that's not growing cricket. That's not making cricket exciting for kids. I mean, to a certain extent, I'm sure you are bringing in new fans, but you're doing it right at the end of the season when they can't therefore air it. I would put it right at the beginning. I know why it doesn't happen that way, because it's all to do with the broadcasters and trying to get the peak time. But if it's really honestly about what they're pretending it is about, then that's what I would do. So there's a little bit of a mix there. I know it doesn't run smooth. It's so hard to get everything right. We do have, I speak as a county members forum that we have. We do have a plan of the schedule, but it isn't out yet, and so I can't bring that out.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking to the PCA, and we're going to be talking to some other people about our schedule plan, and it works better than my personal one, and it is pretty good, actually. I think it's got some, and it does include the 100, and it's not stuck at the beginning of the season either. So but it's making the 100 have compromises, and it's I would reduce the 100 a little bit as well, and it does reduce 100 a little bit, and so I can't talk about that much more anyway. But so I hope that answers a little bit what I would do.
Yeah, and I understand that. That's honest as well. So thanks, Fanny. I appreciate that. I was looking at it, and I always think, at least 18 games. If we've got 18, if we've got 18 counties, and we've got 9. I know it's 10 in one and 8 in the other, isn't it? The way it works at the moment.
Yeah.
But 9 in each. Play each other twice, home and away, 18 games minimum. Would that work in a season? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of talk about having 20 games, because they're talking about 10. There's lots of talk about having 20 games, and I think a lot of I know a few counties and a few chief execs that say that's what we should have. It's always been a bit weird, hasn't it? The county championship. It's we haven't always played every team. We haven't always played home and away for all teams. It's been changed so often. I mean, it's probably never stayed the same for more than a couple of years, I should imagine. So
very true.
Yeah, but I mean, it is what members really enjoy, and so I'm speaking for a lot of members as a County Cricket Matters person. I would speak for a lot of members, and it is the championship that keeps our heart and our soul together, and it's what we want to watch. But we recognise that T20 brings in the money, and this high performance review again is planning to reduce that, and that is really the death knell of some of the smaller counties. And this is where I really, really struggle with the high performance review, because what you're saying is the 100 teams are going to be okay because they will get the money from the 100 and they'll get the revenue for the 100. And the teams that don't have the 100, you're saying we'll take away your bread and butter, and we'll take away the games that actually keep your championship going. So like I said, I would prefer to see more games, more championship games, but I also recognise that we need to get the revenue from the blast as well.
Yeah, I really like the idea. I mean, the 50 over competition being like an FA Cup. I mean, I mentioned this probably 2 years ago when we started broadcasting on the Masked Cricketer, and we did a pundits panel with Jim Maxwell, and I sort of mentioned there that, you know, having an FA Cup style competition
with the minor counties as well,
with the national counties in, definitely, without a doubt, would really, I think, would raise that. I do get your point about, you know, perhaps, you know, once you're out, but perhaps there could be a plate competition off the back of that, so you get at least a couple, perhaps another couple.
Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility of that, but
it's still, getting it in, isn't it?
If you're losing championship games, you lose, you know, you're out straight away in the Royal London One Day Cup, and you're being cut from your blast games as well. It's not exactly it's not a great present to get, is it? Really, it's not.
No, absolutely. No, I think that would be interesting. I think you're right. I've heard you before about getting the 100 at the beginning of the season. I totally agree with that. I think, you know, having it in August where kids can't actually then play it. I will say there was a 100 competition in Oxfordshire this year, and the feedback of the people who played in it was very positive, I have to say, and they enjoyed it. But it was done at the same time as you know, so it was in August, and it was only 1 or 2 games. It was a real sort of pilot to see if they enjoyed it and stuff, and the feedback was good. And it was feedback from the clubs was quite good as well, which was interesting for me, but on a very small scale. So that's interesting. But I agree with you. Beginning of the year, get that participation up. If that's where we're going with it, and we're trying to encourage youngsters, get it at the right time, because August doesn't do anything. You're absolutely spot on with that. Right, Kieran, there is a couple of questions coming in on YouTube. Certainly from I'm going to mention it because it is important. It's from our actual Oxfordshire Disability Cricket Officer, Richard Giles. I'll let you ask the question, Kieran, but I just want to just at this point say we're still doing all this pundits panel Masked Cricketer in aid of the Lord's Taverners, and if you feel that you have had a bit of entertainment already tonight, please donate. You can just go to our Just Giving page, the Masked Cricketer, and please donate. I'll put that down in the scroll at the bottom. K-Dog, over to you.
Yeah, I was a bit conflicted, wasn't I, in August, because you mentioned the 100 in Oxfordshire, and of course my club got to finals day and we finished third, and I was asked to coach in it. I ended up not coaching in it, not because I didn't agree with the 100, but because I had to work. But I was a bit conflicted when they got to finals day. Dick Giles has made a couple of comments. First of all, he's mentioned dinosaurs. I think he's relating to me there, Daryl. He's called me a dinosaur.
Oh, I'm me, I'm sure.
I'm sure that's definitely aimed at me, knowing Dick as I do. So Dick's made a couple of comments. One of them is a comment, and one of them sort of, well, they're both comments, but one sort of leads on from the other. So Andy, he said that unfortunately county cricket can't be watched by the working public very often. Cricket mad people that are working public. He said it's a good watch on Sky, but that's it. And then he follows that up to say that the money that the 100 is making, this is a moot point, but you might have other comments. The money that the 100 is making is going straight back into grassroots cricket, and we now have a new ECB initiative for disability cricket paid for by the 100. Now, I'm not saying for a minute that any money that comes into grassroots cricket isn't great, but what are your thoughts on that? Is it something that can be developed?
Well, it's interesting. Well, there's a big review going on now about the money that the 100 has made or lost, and that's being looked at the moment. I don't know how he knows that this money has come down from the 100. I believe that hasn't been found out yet, because apparently it's made a massive loss so far, because that's what happens when you start up an initiative. I guess what he's talking about is the broadcasting money, possibly, but that still is, as far as I know, that there isn't any money that has been massive money that's been made, but that this is all being looked into at the moment, and I don't honestly know, because it's being reviewed, what money's been coming down to grassroots cricket, but I believe it is still due to make a loss for the next 5 years, and so
yeah. I'm gonna throw a curveball to Wes in a moment, because he's been sitting there very patiently. My last sort of comment for now, before my voice gives up a little bit, is a lot of countries have said in the past, and a lot of significant players have said that they're not going to adopt the 100. The 100 is basically, at the moment, it's England only. Do you not think, therefore, that we could have just redeveloped the T20 Blast or the Blast cricket? Because if no other country is going to adopt it, you know, we're world champions in the 50 over competition. We're just about to go to a T20 World Cup. Surely the best option would have been to try and look at a way of revamping the Blast, which I actually thought was a really good product. I actually quite enjoyed the Blast, still do.
Is that to me? Sorry.
yes, it's to you.
Sorry, yes,
What
to
do you
you.
want to do? Sorry. Yeah, as you said, I think I really enjoy the Blast. I mean, just looking at this year's competition, obviously I am a bit biased being Hampshire and winning the way we did. It was an unbelievable spectacle for everyone watching on TV and in the stadiums. I don't think you can get a much more exciting finish than that, besides maybe 2010 when Hampshire beat Somerset on the last ball.
No, that was terrible. No, that was awful, that
one. Yeah, I think, I mean, just going back to the 100, we've seen, obviously, at the Ageas Bowl, it's one of the biggest stadiums around, I think, certainly bigger than Taunton. We had back-to-back record crowds for the women's game, there or thereabouts, around 9,000. So that's roughly 2/3 capacity for the women's game, and sellout. I think we sold 5 games out. The maximum capacity, I think it was around 15,000. And the atmospheres I saw whilst I was with the Brave, not just at the Ageas Bowl, but elsewhere, were slightly different to Blast crowds. I mean, the first few Blast games, where Hampshire struggled a little bit with the crowds. They weren't at their best, but if that was the start of the season, we had a couple on weekday nights again, which aren't ideal timings.
No, that's when you stick the Blast games on.
Yeah, well, I think we had a Blast. I think it was against Somerset, actually, our second game. I think it was on a Monday night, which is not the best for getting huge crowds in. But as I mean, Hampshire got off to a poor start as well. But once we got on a roll, then the crowd started getting a bit bigger. I'll personally, I would have liked to see more publicity going into the Blast. If they marketed the Blast as much as they have done the 100, then I think it could be brilliant. I mean, the quality of overseas players we've seen in the Blast, I think, has been on par with the 100. We had, again, from Hampshire, we had Ben McDermott and Nathan Ellis, two players who have played for Australia recently. Nathan Ellis was absolutely brilliant. Economy rate of under 7. Ben McDermott, again, just whacked the ball to all parts. Going back to, I've sort of gone on a bit of a tangent here. I do apologise. But I think the 100 has had positives. I think the main positive is obviously the connection with the women's game, and the women's sides and the men's sides playing under the same name. I think that is probably, well, I don't think there's any question, it is the biggest positive to come out of the tournament. I think it has got more people interested in cricket, especially younger people. But again, there is still that issue around the timing, and I suppose August makes sense from a commercial perspective because it's school holidays, the kids can have the time during weekdays to go and watch games. But like you said earlier, Annie, there's a few more weeks until the season's over and no more cricket for the next 6 months, which we're in now. So again, personally, I think it would make more sense. Take a not a hit commercially, but I think you can still get to kids to 100 games during April and May. But then they've got a whole season of cricket to look forward to. If you enjoy the 100 in April and May, you then can look at clubs to go to, and then you can start playing pretty much straight away rather than waiting 5-6 months to get outdoors.
Because kids forget, or that happens. You do lose an interest, and you've got to strike while the iron is hot, as they say. But yeah. I mean, it was a strange thing, but also the other thing is that the Kia Super League was gaining momentum, and also Australian women's cricket, England women's cricket, New Zealand women's cricket was all getting stronger, and also that there was the great women's football World Cup just before, so that there was a momentum for women's sport, and I think it's fantastic. And I'm not knocking the 100 for, I'm not saying that the 100 hasn't brought in, because there's something about a new competition that gives people ownership. So you suddenly have a crowd of people that say, oh, this is a new thing, and I'm interested in this, and I'm a new fan, and I think there is an element of that with the 100 as well. So I recognise that. What I really feel like Caleb was saying, that it so could have been done with the Blast, and we could have had a Premiership that was televised. We could have had women's cricket alongside men's cricket on that, and kept in the same sort of July, August time, and we would not have this big elephant in the room August conundrum that we have now. It just wouldn't be a thing, and there's nothing we can do about it now, and it just feels so badly managed, so ridiculously organized, when we actually have a competition that directly competes with our own competition that isn't, was having, issues building momentum anyway. So you just think, what on earth are we doing? Why did we do this? I recognize that, it has gained a few, quite a few new people watching it, but in the end, it seems to have done a lot more damage than it's done good.
I'll tell you what, Darryl, I reckon that me and Annie should take on the role of the ECB. I think I've found my equivalent alter ego here.
Very good.
We are totally on the same page.
I just want to bring Wes back in on not the 100, but the county championship, because obviously you've done a little bit on the county championship. If you were involved in the performance review, from what you've seen this year, what would you do? Are we on the same page of saying we've got to strengthen county cricket to make sure our national game is strong with the players coming through? What's your thoughts, Wes?
I'd probably say where the national team is at the moment, it's in a lot better place than it was 12 months ago. But as Kieran said, I think that's largely due to the change of management and the way Brendan McCullum has taken the team on has worked wonders. I think there are, and Stokes, yes, of course, yeah. I still think there are issues, especially around the batting. I think we haven't seen an England batter average more than 40 come into Test cricket since, I think, Joe Root. They're about 10 years ago now. But the reasons for that, I'm not 100% sure. I would say with the way things are now with the county championship, I've seen pretty much a lot more of it than most this year, obviously because of my line of work. But I mean, going back to Hampshire, we in Division 1 play 14 games, so we missed out on playing Surrey twice, Lancashire twice, and Essex twice, which could have made a difference in the end. Who knows? But it would be good to play everyone twice, home and away. I think that's probably how it should be. obviously with the schedule the way it is at the moment, there's just so much cricket jam packed into 6-7 months of the summer. And I mean, hats off to the players for for doing that. I mean, if you want to ask someone about the schedule, speak to James Vince. He's played pretty much every single game of cricket that's humanly possible this summer. He's played every county championship game, every blast game, every 100 game. I mean, he's probably away on holiday at the moment, and that is a thoroughly well-deserved holiday. Yeah, I think at the start, I think, as Annie said, the sort of regularity of it, I think it began on a Thursday, finishes on a Sunday for the first 4, 5, 6 weeks of the season. I think that needs to stay in place. The back end of the season, I think we had games, some starting on a Monday, on a Tuesday, where there was no county championship at weekends, which I think there needs to be more of personally. If you are going to reduce the number of county championship games, then I think more of those games need to be on a weekend, on a Saturday and a Sunday.
That actually doesn't make sense, does it? At the back end, there's no other cricket being played. Why are we not doing that at the weekend? That to me, commercially, doesn't make any sense at all.
There's a lot that commercially doesn't make very much sense, I have to say. But yeah, no, it's a crazy thing, isn't it?
Sorry, I stopped you in full swing there. Wes, carry on. Sorry.
I can't remember where I was now. But yeah, I mean, more county championship games at the weekend would be brilliant. But again, as I say, it is just so difficult to, where it's the division setup we have now of 10 and 8, whether it's 2 divisions of 9, which it was, again, not that many years ago, only about 3 or 4 years ago, or whether it's this 3 divisions like we had, I think it was last year or the year before, we had 3 divisions of 6.
The Bob Willis Trophy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Bob Willis Trophy, or even, I'm fairly sure it was last year, where you had 3 out-and-out divisions of 6, which I don't think I'd be too against. The only thing I'd be against there is obviously that you'd only be able to play 10 games and play everyone twice, which is obviously the main sticking point with members and county cricket lovers. And as much as I do like T20s and the occasional 100 match, I am a red ball traditionalist, if you like. I love county cricket, love Test cricket. I think it's the pinnacle of the game, as opposed to earning millions of pounds in these T20 leagues that are dominating the calendar at the moment, the international calendar. Yeah, I'm not sure how the ECB are going to do this, because there's so many things that they have to balance. They've got the members, they've got the counties themselves, they've got broadcasters, they've got the PCA as well. They've got so many different people to sort of account for in this high performance review. And I think the main sticking point with the counties is probably losing those blast games, because I think the T20 blast is where the counties make most of their money. And yeah, if they lose a couple of those games, then it could potentially put some of the quote unquote smaller counties, if you like, into some financial issues. But yeah, I don't think if I think, yeah, as I say, I think that's going to be the main sticking issue with the counties themselves, and obviously the reduction in county championship matches is going to be the sticking point with the members as well.
Very good, Wes. That was a good summary there from a Hampshire point of view, and obviously an exciting season for you. You had good fun.
It was brilliant fun. Yeah, I mean, we at one point we're on for the treble. We won the blast. I mean, the blast was over in mid-July, and don't get me wrong, it was great fun. But it was, I mean, last year it ended mid-September, I think, where we saw Steve-O and Kent lifting the trophy. In the One Day Cup, where we had great crowds. To be fair, we 3,000 plus, I think, each game, which I don't think is too shabby for a One Day Cup game. Especially in a big stadium like the Ageas. Well, it might have looked half empty, but the atmosphere was still there. Undone by Steve-O in the semi-final. Hats off to him. He played a great knock, and I think counties would be silly not to sign him up after he's now no longer in contract. Obviously county championship made a bit of a mess of it at the end, but hats off to Surrey. They played a blind all season. To not lose a game in the county championship is some effort, and I think they've got, I mean, to do that without England players as well for most of the summer, without Ben Folkes, Ollie Pope. Injuries as well. Jamie Overton was injured. But obviously played that Test match with England as well. They played really well, and Hampshire, it's been 50 years for Hampshire, so that barren run continues, I suppose.
You never know. You never know. Next year,
always next year.
Always next year.
Next year.
That's what we keep saying.
Annie, I'm going to come back to you now. You're gonna hate me for this, but I've been to the 100. I went to Trent Bridge in 2021, and I went to Headingley in 2022, and it's a bit of a tour round to grounds that I've never been to, and I was very impressed with Trent Bridge. I wasn't so impressed with Headingley. I don't know why, but I saw 4 games. In 2021, I paid £24 for 2 tickets because I got in an early bird. This year, I paid £60 for 2 tickets. In the 4 games I've watched, none of them have been very exciting. They've not been close games, not very close encounters at all. But the actual atmosphere and the music, I quite like the music. My wife comes with me, and she quite likes the atmosphere. Always supporting the away team. I try and, no, you're not supposed to do that. But
where is her cricket etiquette?
It's quite amusing. But if what I'm getting at is, if you could say anything to me why I shouldn't be doing that, and slap me around the face, whatever, what would you say to me? Why are you going to these places when you're not going to county championship matches?
Are you not going to county championship?
I'm not going to county championship matches.
So why aren't you going to county championship games?
Little bit of my job, in fairness, a bit something mentioned. I would really struggle to find time to do it, and I'm playing still, club cricket and.
Okay, so the weekends aren't good for you because you're playing club cricket, and then the weekdays aren't good which is a normal thing. So the evening games that the 100 games, they've been evening games, have they? Or
they've been a Sunday both times, actually. Sunday both times, yeah.
Okay. Why shouldn't you be? There's no reason why you shouldn't be going. I won't behead you or anything, but the only reason I wouldn't go, or I don't want to go, is because it directly competes with what I want. I totally feel that the 100 directly competes with giving my county time and cricket experience. So that would be why I wouldn't go. I'm perfectly happy for everyone else to go. It wouldn't. I'm not stopping anyone. And I'm really pleased if it gets people into cricket. I might be a bit of a dinosaur, but I'm really pleased if it does get people into cricket. If it gets your wife into cricket, for example, she wouldn't. But what I fear is it gets people into the 100, but it doesn't get people into cricket, and I think that's partly how it's been marketed. Like, for example, the people who market the 100 say last year, I don't know if they did it this year, but last year they said at the end of the 100, oh, that's it for cricket this year. What are we going to do until see you next August? That's not bringing people into cricket. That's not saying the next 3-4 weeks there's lots of good championship games, go down and watch them. We've got some really exciting finishes. That's not doing that. And that's not saying go and sign up to your local cricket club. That's not saying go and see anything else or test cricket. It's saying the 100 is cricket, and that's what I fear, and that's where my anger with the whole thing is, because it is absolutely saying the 100. It's like when a player does well, like Will Smeed did well from Somerset in the 100. Apparently, he'd just done really well for Somerset, but it was him. The 100 had created him, and there was no mention really of him coming from Somerset. And that is where it's crazy and stupid, and why you feel like it's directly competing. And here I am getting a bit about it. But that's where my bugbear is. So that's why I feel, I don't want to go, because I think I would find, probably like you, Kieran, that it would annoy you too much. And that's fine if you can go, Daryl, and you're not annoyed by that, and you have a good time. Then that's great. I'm not, I'm not knocking people who go and see it, and great if they get a good crowd. Brilliant. I can't complain at that. Any cricket and people engaging with cricket is great, but it's what they do, why they don't follow it through, and why it becomes such a diversive competition. That's where my real bugbear is, and the fact that the counties that aren't hosting are really, really struggling in terms, and will be struggling financially. It's so much so that they might have to fold at some point. That this is where the 100 is a swear word.
I love the passion, Annie, and I'm sitting on the fence, and I'm being devil's
You can sit on that fence. I hope it's not barbed wire.
I was certainly, I was nodding. I was nodding, probably in approval now, to be honest. I personally, if I had anything to do with it, would keep it as a women's competition, because I think it's done wonders for their sport. I would keep it at that. That would not impinge on county championship cricket. It wouldn't impinge at all on international women's cricket either. So I would keep it at that. I think it would do a massive wonders for that. That's probably where I would go with it. That's just
I gather that the games were pretty a bit better in the women's game than
I
the
think
men's.
they were.
Is what I've heard. But
I agree. In probably the 4 games I saw, the 2 men's games were pretty drab, boring actually. But the women's games were a lot more exciting. I will have to say that. For sure. We're close to finishing. I know there's been a couple of comments, and I'm going to go over to Kieran with that. I'll come back to me, and we'll just talk lastly about, obviously, your passion of county cricket matters, and try and do a little bit of a plug for that, because we should be doing that for sure. Kieran, I know there's been a couple of comments and a couple of questions, I think, or statements. I don't know.
No, I was just listening intently to what you were saying, Daryl. And I just think if you want good music, you go to a nightclub. If you want rubbish food, you go to a fast food restaurant. If you want fireworks, go down to Duckington Showground and watch some fireworks. But it's not for cricket. So yeah, Annie, I'm 100% on your side on this. I don't think this little ECB committee of 4 has made too many decisions tonight. But yeah, we've had some really good comments that have come in. Frank Butler. So he said he saw all of Kent's one-day cup games this season. All were brilliant, especially as they had to win each game to qualify. He said he watched some of the 100 games. It was nowhere near as good as the one-day cup. Really good point here. Membership of the counties, I think you've said this before, Annie, membership of the counties will fall if people will not pay, because people will not pay annual subs for county games. And when you bear in mind, we've had a great summer weather-wise, but if we have a normal summer, that could be 2 or 3 games, wouldn't it? So, Steve-O at Kent have missed an opportunity to have Steve-O coaching the younger players, and somebody else saying, if I was to go to a 100 game, which I wouldn't do even if you paid me, I would not know who to support, because they're all just crisp packets, aren't they? Really.
Well, it's the names as well. I don't know who's who and what's what. I find that with some of the Charlotte Edwards Cups and things, I'm not quite sure which teams are which. And I find that weird. I don't all the names for the other franchise tournaments.
Well, if I was a 100 supporter, I'd go for. If I was a 100 supporter, I'd go for the hula hoops, but that's about it, really. So, no, it's been brilliant, Annie. Thank you so much. It's been, as I said, it's been more of a talking shop than sort of any. We can't make decisions. We can just sort of talk about our passion, really. I personally feel that, as Frank said, that counties, it's a bit. It could potentially be, and it's not. it's not sort of over egging it. It could be an existential crisis for some clubs if a proper compromise isn't met, where county cricket, proper county cricket, first class cricket, is not pushed to the margin, which it is. I get the feeling it is being pushed to the margins, and it has been for a few years. My personal view would be that you have either the Blast or the 100, not both. And if it's the 100 they go with, it goes to the counties. You can have 3 divisions of 100 perhaps and make it, competitive in that way. This is the only thing I would say about the 100. If you're going to have it, then have it as a county competition where your county players are involved in it.
Which is what they don't want, because they want fewer games.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't sell, does it? So
it's the broadcasters leading that.
Yeah, sadly it is, and it's money related, as many things are. I'm really pleased to see we've had quite a few watching on YouTube this evening. Normally on our Facebook group we get most of our viewers. So if you're watching on YouTube and you want to subscribe, we are trying to get our subscribers up because that raises money for the Lord's Taverners. So if you'd like the video, hit like and subscribe, and tell your friends to subscribe as well. We will be coming back fairly regularly over the winter with some more masked cricketers. And some more pundits panels, and hopefully Annie will have you back on as well. I think we should invite you, Annie, to our next Lord's Taverners game, either as a player or as a scorer. So you're very welcome. Daryl, that's it. They've got a very nice score box at Oxford Downs where it's playing. So Daryl, I'll hand back to you, but I think it's been a really lively little debate, and thanks Wes as well for your input. I won't say passion because I know what side of the fence you sit on, but thank you very much. And Daryl, back to you.
Thank you. Wes, have you got anything else to add, or you want to ask Annie before I sort of go in with the last bit?
Not massively, but just on that point of someone not knowing who to support with the 100, I think if you download the 100 app and first setting it up, it asks for your location and gives you the team based on that. And being in Oxford at the time, it gave me Birmingham Phoenix. Well, hang on a second, I don't relate to Birmingham. I relate more with the South than I do to Birmingham. But going on the back of your point, Darren, about just having the 100 for the women's games, I'm not 100% sure that would work. I think the main selling point with the women and why the women's game is increasing exposure is because it's played under the same names and played on the same day as the men's games. And when we had the Sun Vipers against the Northern Diamonds in the Charlotte Edwards Cup on the 4th of June, I think it was, that was a double header. We had the women's T20 in the afternoon, followed by El Clasico, Hampshire Sussex men's T20 in the evening, and we got a record crowd, record Sun Vipers crowd for that, 4,000.
For women and a Blast game for the men.
Potentially that could work, but I think
it could work.
It could work. Yeah, that's throwing a bit of a curveball there.
That's what we like. That's what we like.
That's a mic
I think with I think with the women's game, the women's domestic game, you're 8 regional hubs now, compared to the 100 is obviously with the 100 you have, I think it's 3 overseas players you have, whereas in the women's domestic game there are hardly any, virtually none. I mean, back in the KSL you had, I think it was two per team. This year Thunder, the sort of northwest, sort of Lancashire, Cheshire, Northumberland, that team, Cumbria, sorry, not Northumberland, had Deandra Jottam, one of the world's best short form players. And I think if we could see more overseas players playing in the Charlotte Edwards Cup, playing in the Rachel Hare Flint Trophy, I think that would increase the standard and the exposure of it as well. Going to the Rachel Hare Flint Trophy final at Lords this year, the crowd was pretty poor, given it was the day after that incredible finish to the England-India ODI. And I mean, hats off to Charlie Dean for playing in the Rachel Hare Flint Trophy after less than 24 hours before she'd been run out in that fashion. Yes. I think it would be nice if essentially they promoted the women's game more the same way they do the 100. Because seeing a few hundred people at Lords, which can house over 30,000, is not a great spectacle. I mean, the crowd that was there are more your diehard fans, your members. But again, I think helping the women's game grow, having those double headers on like like I saw at on that double header we had this year. I think if more counties can do that, and yes, it's a bit difficult with the regional teams not necessarily being aligned to certain counties. I think if they do more of that, and if the counties themselves, I think if the counties themselves can promote their players, Hampshire, for example, Maya Boucher is a Hampshire player. She's gone on to England and done some pretty impressive things over the course of the last few years. Yeah, I suppose I'm more passionate about the women's game at the moment than I am the men's game. I'm sort of leading the way with the Vipers content this year. But yeah, I think if you get more double headers, and that's great, I think.
Brilliant, Wes. Thank you for that. Typical. You see me looking down to the side, Annie, from time to time. I'm getting messages from Mr. Bushstore on my right here saying he's forgotten something. He wants to bring something into the party. This always happens. He's gonna, come on, Kieran.
My last comment. I promise. My last comment of the night, Annie, and it was because of something you mentioned actually. And I just think I want to know what your thoughts are. This is definitely my last. It would be really interesting if there was stats available telling us how many people who were introduced to cricket via the 100 have gone on to see a county game, and I would venture to suggest that figure will be 0 or very close to.
It hasn't been encouraged, let's put it like that, has it? And I think those sort of things are going to be really hard to find out, as is gone on to do to participate as well. I think those sort of stats are going to be really, really hard to find.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's really difficult.
Might file a little FOI request to the ECB, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, that one of the things about the ECB is they haven't been very transparent or very chatty, have they?
Indeed.
Throughout the last few years. I'm hoping that Richard Thompson will change that a little bit. I would like to see more cohesion between counties, fans, members, and the ECB. Don't feel like we're all playing the same game or following the same game sometimes.
There was a little board. There was a little board a few years ago, before your time, Wes. It was called the Test and County Cricket Board. Perhaps that would come back. And
they had a lot fewer employees then, didn't they? Like hundreds fewer.
A lot less. I was just thinking, I was hoping that because of his background of being, from, Surrey, that it may be encouraging going forward. We shall see. We'll find out as it unfolds, won't we? And I think it'll be exciting to see, and hopefully not to the detriment of, as you say, county championship cricket, because that would be disastrous, because it's been going for 150 years plus, hasn't it? I think so.
Well, it's gone for over 150 years plus, and it's also what is so hidden and so forgotten is the brilliant stuff they do with communities, with schools, with so much that it is so hidden and celebrated, if that's a word. I think that those sort of things are just massive, and we really need to big it up more, because the ECB have not. You've got this 100 competition that comes in for 5-6 weeks, all razzmatazz, all blah, and then you've got the counties throughout the year engaging with their community, with their, it's not even comparable. I'm having problems with my words now.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, thanks. It's getting late. I'm normally in bed by now.
I said we'd be on for an hour, and it's an hour and 15. I blame Kieran myself, but I do, to be fair. I'm going to get on to County Cricket Matters, because we do want to give that a bit of a go. I love the aims of County Cricket Matters on your website. I'm just going to read that out, actually. The aim of County Cricket Matters is to be a voice for those concerned at how top-class cricket is changing in this country. The purpose is not to denigrate those running the game or question the motives behind attempts to broaden the appeal of the sport, which has often been its own worst enemy. it's also not to look back at some golden age, which almost certainly never existed. Cricket must evolve, but it must do so in ways true to the spirit and traditions of the game. A key part of this continuing to base our national game around the county structure, as it has been for more than 150 years. I really like that aim. Annie, just give us a little bit of background. I know it started, I think, in 2019, and I think there's 4 magazines a year to subscribe to, but give us a bit of background of County Cricket Matters.
Yeah, so it started in 2019 November, when we were concerned about what the 100 would mean to county cricket, and the impact it would have. So we thought we'd bring out a magazine, and November 2019 was basically 100 special, and it was lots of articles about the 100 and why we were concerned, and then we kind of decided the second issue, which was brought out in March 2020, just as COVID hit, was going to be instead, we'd done the 100, we'd kind of said what we thought about it, and the March 2020 was a celebration of county cricket, and that's what it's continued to be since then. So that's when I took on the editorship, and basically it's a platform for people, new writers, brilliant writers, cricketers, anyone, to talk about their experiences with county cricket, just lots. So we try and have a wide range of articles, some about ancient cricketers, some about people's experiences, some new stuff, and ancient cricketers like Darryl, and I do an interview with people, so just generally that, and that's what it is. And I just happen to have one here,
look at that.
And got it. So this is the latest one, which has got Sam Northeast on the front and is 410, and this one was September issue, so it goes through till December, and it's I've got an interview in this one with Michael Holding, which was amazing to chat to him, and Vic Marks has written an article in it, and Bumble has written an article in it as well, and then there's a few other people that have new people and some other great writers as well. So we have about 15 articles, something like that. That's 15, 16 articles in the magazine, and comes out quarterly. It's £2.50, and you can get it on my website, which is countycricketmatters.com.
Running down the bottom there.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, so I see it. Yeah.
So we yes.
Yeah, and you can subscribe. It's £13 for the year, and that's including postage. So yeah, it's just a celebration of county cricket, basically. So and I've got a good number of subscribers now, and it's it's going from strength to strength. And this one's volume 12, and so 13 I'm working on already.
Brilliant. And you've got an extra subscriber, because I promise after tonight I will subscribe.
Right, okay, so I'll be looking at, otherwise I'll just send you a couple of messages saying I'm still waiting.
Absolutely, quite right too.
Keep bombarding him.
Annie, it's been really good to have you on. It's been a really, I think it's really enjoyed the last hour and 20 minutes or so, talking about all things cricket and your passion for county championship cricket. I love it. I think it's just brilliant. We're passionate about cricket and our game across the board, but to have that about the county championships really special, I think. So fair play to you, and long may it continue, and good luck with the continuing County Cricket Matters. Annie Chave, everybody, well done, brilliant, fantastic.
Was that your favourite?
That was my favourite. Annie, please stay with us while I just say our normal goodbyes and thank yous. Please stay with us offline, just to have a quick chat. But yes, that's it then, the end of our first Pundits panel for a while. Thank you for joining us tonight with our special guest, and hope you've enjoyed it, and hope you've taken something from it actually as well. So I think there's been some really good things said. My thanks again to Annie Chave, Kieran Bushnell, K-Dog, Wesley Spearman, work experience, Wes. We can't call you that now. Wes, aka Stato. Thanks very much. Thanks for everybody who's watched. Take care, and we'll see you soon for either a Masked Cricketer or another Pundits panel in the very near future. Cheerio.
Bye.
Bye.